7:14 on this October 8th. We want to welcome to microphone number 2 our Sheriff, John Montgomery. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, sir.
How you been?
Just really busy.
I can understand. So what's going on in the sheriff's office?
Busy is, same story, just different chapter. Prison overcrowding. Was honored to be asked to come down and testify to the Criminal Justice Reform Committee last week, I think it was. And then I actually just got back from Tucson, state sheriff's business, out there dealing really two topics, is the mentally ill in the all of our jails across the United States. And then we have another issue dealing with our federal government, the FCC.
The FCC?
The FCC has taken it upon themselves that they have stepped in, and they're actually going to make their order, if you will, on, I think it's October 22nd.
2 weeks from today.
Yeah, they're going to, and what's anticipated in that order is they're going to actually step in and tell every state what rates that the state can charge for phone service for the jails and prisons.
Why would they? That don't make sense.
Well, it makes no sense in the first place. The second place, they possibly could have regulatory authority from state to state, but we contend they have absolutely no authority to deal. In other words, in-state calls. They have no authority, none whatsoever. So this has been going on now for some time. Lots of testimony. National Sheriff Association has been dealing with this. It's going to mean a significant change in even the service, and some of the small jails probably will even lose their service altogether. So we have been in contact with Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, and we basically got, 2 weeks?
2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
You said the 22nd?
I think that's correct, yes. So that's, again, another
So how's that affect Baxter County?
It will actually reduce, we have by law, there's a fund called a communications fund, and the profits from those phone calls, we receive a portion of those profits. And so that's our communications. We buy radio equipment, we buy computers, and so we've not been back to the Corn Court asking for money for our communications in the tenure I've been here. And so it's going to cut that. We anticipate probably reduce that fund by 60%, which is going to put us budget-wise in a really bad situation. And again, it's another example of federal overreach. Absolutely.
Unbelievable. You're talking about mental illness. The recent shooting in Oregon, and Judge Sean Womack was here on, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. Getting inside the criminal mind, why would a person do such things? And you see it from the drug activity, from domestic violence. I mean, who would think that you'd walk into a community college with all these weapons and just go to shooting? Why? I don't,
Well, first of all, I don't even try to get in the criminal mind. I really don't. One, that's not my field, and two, again, the situation there. I've got about half a dozen thoughts on that shooting, and it's tragic, and certainly don't want to take away from anything of the tragedy. But some of the things that come to mind, number one, and I get very frustrated, and that, as I understand it, was a gun-free zone. So in other words, no one was allowed to even have a gun anywhere in that entire area. Mm-hmm. Well, it just frustrates to me, whether you're pro-gun, anti-gun, it doesn't make any difference. People, those gun laws or those restrictions are made for law-abiding citizens. You would obey that sign. A criminal's not going to.
And we can't get that through the bureaucratic mind.
It just frustrates me. You can make all the laws in the world. If people were obeying the laws, I wouldn't have a job. Dale. Mm-hmm. And so the problem is it's the folks, when you make a law like that, all you're doing is telling the law-abiding citizens what they can and can't do. The criminal's not going to pay attention to it anyway. So that's my first frustration. The second frustration really has to do with the fact that this was a war or an attack. War is probably too strong a word, but an attack on Christians.
Yeah.
And you know, there was a sheriff from Pennsylvania that put a little post up, and I copied it. Really, when you think about it, the bravest person in America that day was the second person that said,
I saw that.
That said, I'm a Christian after the first one was shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that took some
Yeah.
guts, courage, whatever you want to say. But I just want to know, they're attacking, I mean, the national media is attacking the shooting, which, again, it's a tragedy. But where's the outrage over the war on Christians? I mean, look at in the past we've had, when the Muslims were shot or whoever, I mean, the media's screaming and hollering hate crime.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the outrage here?
Exactly.
Because it's a war on Christians.
Yeah.
That's the frustration. The third thing that I has to deal with the mentally ill, and I'll just tell you, this is again, there's no magic answer. But here's kind of where we backed ourselves into a corner. When you look at across not just massive shootings, but even others, yes, it would be great if we could keep guns, other weapons, not just guns, out of the hands of the mentally ill. But here's where the problem occurs. Because we have sort of backed ourselves in with all of these HIPAA requirements, and you can't share information, and anything to do with medical or is sensitive and can't be shared. You've got folks that right now, unless you've been declared mentally incompetent, you can go purchase a gun. So you could have been undergoing psychiatric treatments, you could be on psychiatric drugs, and yet you can still go get one.
So I was asking Judge Womack the other day, is there not a factor that when the doctor orders a person to be on a certain medication, that it goes into a database saying this person's on depression drugs or this or this or this? That don't happen?
Well, and certainly Judge Womack would be much more qualified to answer that from the legal standpoint than I would. But again, it would fall under HIPAA. You can't share that information.
Wow.
So, in a sense, Dale, I totally agree with you. It'd be great if that somehow went into a database that would at least stop. Now, that's not to say people don't have moments in their life where where they need assistance. But again, and this may be controversial, but to me, that those folks should go in a database, and then at some point they go back to a doctor, and the doctor then would clear them.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. For to be able to do that. I get frustrated because we're so worried about sharing information or someone finding out. I guess I'm from a whole different school. I got a flu shot. You want to know if I got a flu shot? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, but yet to share that information is a violation of HIPAA. Okay. I mean, that's what we have done. We've just got to the point where
Is this falling under political correctness, you think?
Oh, I don't know.
All that crazy crap?
People are so concerned, I don't know.
I know. Well, now, let's look at some of these video games. I've been talking about some of this stuff, not on the radio, but in private, and they said, well, look at the violence. Well, I'll tell you what, about a month or so ago, I was watching Channel 3 News at noon, and they always have a movie review of the new movies coming out for the upcoming week or weekend, whatever. And I think Steve Grant had like 4 movies in review. 3 of the 4, Sheriff, were rated R for sexual content, drug use, sex, and violence. That's entertainment?
Well, it is entertainment. And it's been around for years. I mean, it really has. I mean, you look at the movies in the past, and of course our rating system has changed, but I don't know. It's just frustrating to me that
I know. I hear what you're saying by not speaking. Yeah, I know. You're almost speechless over what do you do next. the video games, hypothetical situation. When I was a kid in Southern Illinois going to my little elementary school, I'd get off the school bus. Mom was there. We'd change into some different clothes. We may watch 30 minutes of TV. It might have been Gilligan's Island or something like that. We'd go out and play. But now with Mom and Dad both working and the kids get off the bus, click, 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 they turn channels, go through the channels. Sometimes the parental controls may be unlocked. Who knows what they see? Can that be a factor? Are kids seeing, and like I asked Judge Womack, is there a factor here of fantasy versus reality that cannot be determined in some minds?
Well, again, that goes beyond my expertise. I'm certainly not a psychiatrist, psychologist, and probably if you ask 10 of them, you'll get 10 different answers. So no, I don't know. Again, it's just, I think a part of it comes down to lack of accountability and lack of respect.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, if you really get down to it, I think those two things are lacking in America today. It's evident in our kids, even what I call young adults, that there's no respect for authority of any kind. You look at what our teachers have to go through in the classroom, and they can't do anything. Law enforcement. I mean, it's really sad.
So young people, do you see younger people, say young teens, 13, 14, 15, are they disrespectful to you and your people in the department?
Certainly not everyone. And I want to, I don't want to just lump all together, but I've been doing this. I mean, I started in 1988 in law enforcement, and there was certainly disrespect back then, but the people that disrespected were really more of the criminal mind. The thugs is probably not a good word, but that's what was close. But as I've watched it over the years, the lack of respect from the kids and the young people towards, and again, I'm saying authority, not just police, authority, anyone in authority, has just gone away. That, and I think it frustrates me because it's always someone else's fault. No one wants to step up and say, you know what, it's my fault, I messed up, I take responsibility for my actions.
Like I did with the schedule on the board and have to reschedule from last week. Yeah.
I mean, we mess up. But, we've become a society in such that it's all about me. And so, I don't know. It just...
The School Resource Officer Program, I'm a big supporter of that. On the radio, I support it wholeheartily. Do you see a difference after that was implemented? I think Mayor Dillard had a hand in that, 10, 12 years ago. What's your thoughts on School Resource Officer?
Absolutely makes a difference. Again, you can't say that it works on all, but when you look at the kids that have come through that and now are young adults, when you see, and I've watched it where they run up to a school resource officer that they had years ago and give them a hug, and, again, it's not perfect by any means, but I do think it makes a huge difference because they actually get to see that we're actually there. We're not the bad guys.
And see, in our day in high school, it was pigs, fuzz, cops, all those derogatory names. Now the policeman become a friend and almost somebody that a student can confide in.
Yeah, it's and we're blessed here. We live in God's country, and we have 3 great school systems here in Baxter County, and again, even step outside, with Viola and Flippin and Yellville. We have a great school systems in this area. So we're blessed in many ways. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we're isolated and that we don't have problems as well. And so, again, the School Resource Officer Program, the DARE programs that we teach in the 3 schools, I do think make a difference.
30 seconds before break.
26, 25, 24.
Preparing for winter and
no, I don't know. It's just really busy. Again, I might
budget time.
We might talk a little bit more about the mentally ill issue when we come back, just because that's not just a state problem, but it's a national problem. Of course, I get frustrated in the state problem, but that's a subject that's. How
long do you think it'll take to get the overcrowding issue solved?
Well, they're solving it right now. just not the way we want to. I think they've reduced the number of backup in the prison or backup in the county jail by over 1,000. But Dale, you're not going to like how they're doing that.
We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. How's that? Time for the news visit with Sheriff John Montgomery. Be right back. 7:35. Can we talk about that?
Well,
that is hilarious.
Actually, here's a trivia question, and we're not going to answer it yet. So I challenge you, if you're listening and you can. But of course, I would hope you already knew this. You didn't, Dale. But
I didn't.
Trivia question, and you could also kind of Throwback Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
So the famous OK Corral in Tombstone. Who's the owner of that corral? And so we'll let the listeners look it up, and yeah, who's the owner?
Yeah.
And just remember, this is Back to the Future month. The movie Back to the Future 26 years ago. So, okay. Next subject.
Nobody's driving the DeLorean, are we?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now DeLoreans are antique collectors.
Yeah, that'd be cool to have one, wouldn't it?
I've worked on one. I put a battery in one.
Yeah.
Of course, they use the same battery as most General Motors products with the side posts, but pretty cool. What were we going to talk about? We were going to talk. Oh, I know what it was. How they're solving the prison overcrowding.
Oh yeah.
Ta-da-ta-da!
Yeah, we were.
You ain't gonna believe this one.
Yeah, and I meant to look it up this morning before I came, but so I don't know the exact number of county jail backup. Now, for the listeners, just a quick rundown. What happens is the prisons has X number of beds, and they're full. So when the person goes to court and the judge sentences them to 10 years in prison, which basically means they'll do about one. So when they sentence them 10 years in prison, they are taken to our jail, and we hold them, and we continue to hold them until a bed opens up down there. The Department of Corrections calls us and says, bring them down. So those folks that we're holding in our county jails, we call backup. In other words, county jail backup. We're holding them for the prison, waiting on them to call us. Our average cost per day is roughly $49 a day to hold an inmate. State pays us $30. Okay?
Yeah.
So, first of all, even from a strict budget,
governmental math,
you understand that we're losing money. So
every day.
The very short time ago, and I say a month ago roughly, the county jail backup was about between 28 and 2,900 across the state, waiting to go to prison. I believe, and again, I didn't look it up this morning, but I believe it's going to be in the 1,800 range. So if you do the math, we've reduced the overcrowding in the county jails by 1,000. That's pretty good news, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But how did they accomplish it?
How did they accomplish it? Well, so here's how they accomplished it, Dale. First of all, they relaxed the rules on the folks that are going to be. In other words, the folks on parole that they're watching. So they relaxed the rules. You can actually fail a drug test 4 times before sanctions are any kind of serious sanctions are brought down.
Any particular chemical they're looking at? Just
doesn't matter.
Any drug.
Any drug. You can commit. You can go out here and shoplift several times. They're not going to send you back. And again, I'm talking generally speaking here because there are some case-by-case basis. So what they did is they relaxed the rules. And so by relaxing the rules, they're now revoking less folks. Less folks are going back to prison. But they are putting them, some of the minor ones, in other words, after they've committed 3 or 4 times, they'll put them in my county jail. Which guess who's pays for?
You do.
But they're not considered county jail backup. They are sentenced straight to my jail. So that doesn't count because they're not going to prison. So that's not part of that number.
Oh,
so my numbers aren't going down, but the number of county jail backup is going down. The second thing they did is they made it retroactive. So all those folks that were sitting in jail, the same rules now all of a sudden applied to them. So they're actually paroling folks straight out of my jail. They've not even been to prison yet. And let me give you one example. This is a real life example. And I testified to this down in Little Rock in front of the committee last week. We've got a guy that we've sent to prison in Baxter County 5 times. Missouri has sent him to prison once. He's 48 years old, and he's been sentenced to prison a total of 54 years.
And served.
Very, very small part of that. Now, he violated his parole again because he got caught burglarizing someone's home, and I use the word again. He's a thief. That's what he does. He steals. He breaks in people's cars, their homes, their businesses. So he gets caught again. He's not living in Baxter County anymore. He's living in Boone County. Now, I don't know the number of cases, but it's a significant number of cases. Okay, so they violate his parole. Okay, makes sense, doesn't it? They now take him over in front of the judge, and he signs a waiver. In other words, saying, I realize I violated my parole, I'm ready to go back. But if he signs a waiver, he's only going to do 6 months. So they're going to make him do 6 months, but here's the deal. If he sits in the county jails for 90 days, he now becomes eligible to be released on parole. So he's on his way down for the 7th time, and yet he's not even going to end up in prison. They're going to parole him directly out of jail. Let him go. And I'll guarantee you in 30 days or less, he'll be breaking in somebody else's house. And hopefully nobody's home so that we don't end up with some sort of violent or serious injury. That's what they're doing. They're releasing folks right and left. And so... Is
that going to encourage more crime?
Well, it's
if
not...
If you don't get punished for the crime...
You can certainly argue that it's there, but here's where my frustration... It goes back to 2011 when the sheriff screamed and hollered so bad at what we call Act 570. Act 570 was the Prison Reform Act in 2011. And what they did is they took every drug offense and reduced the penalty for it, took almost every theft or burglary, in other words, those theft-related, and reduced the penalty for it. And when they did that, and they made it easier to get out on parole and harder to send somebody to prison, okay? And what they did is, they're right. It reduced the prison population drastically. And we kept screaming, you're only doing a temporary fix. It's going to make matters worse in 3 or 4 years. And guess what, Dale? We're sitting here 3 or 4 years later, and we are at an all-time record backup. So what are we doing again? We obviously didn't learn the first time. We're going to let more folks out of prison who do not need to be let out. And we're going to, again, not hold people accountable. And so, again, as bad as the situation is now, it's going to get worse, in my opinion. In another 3 or 4 years, it's going to be disastrous.
Oh, my goodness.
We've got folks that have never been in charge of public safety. In other words, trying to keep the public safe. We got too many folks that's making the decisions that have never been put in a position of trying to keep the community safe. That's the problem.
By the time you need to run for a higher office.
Negative. Sorry it took so long to answer.
Well, why don't you think it over for a minute?
It just is extremely frustrating.
I hear you.
Let me just say, and I got asked, appointed by one of the senators down there, asked me a very pointed question. Since obviously what was working before, or what we did before wasn't working, why? And because one of the comments I said, we're going to have some more beds. We're going to have another prison. People, and she said, well, why should we go back down that path? What would you do differently? And I said, well, Senator, here's the issue. First of all, we were not doing a good job before. We lock them up, get out, misbehave, turn around, lock them back up again. Nothing in between there. And what my feeling is, and my whole point of my testimony really focused on 2 things: repeat offenders and the mentally ill. Okay. Mm-hmm. The repeat offenders is what's killing us across this state. It's certainly hurting us here in Baxter County. Look at our website. How many times? It's a revolving door. And so, just like I mentioned, the guy in Boone County, been down 6 times, don't go on his 7th time. He's not getting it. He's not.
Attorney Mark Cooper's running for a judge position here, and we got to talk about this. I got 3 hots and a cot, and some of them. It's amazing, when I sat and talked with Mark about this, Mark Cooper, hey, I got 3 hots and a cot. I'm safe. Is that their so-called security blanket?
Well, it might be for a few, but again, to me, prison's just not prison anymore. And so what I told the senator, I said, look, I obviously don't have a magic pill, because if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here today and we wouldn't have this problem. But I think, in my opinion, what we need to do, and this is easy to say and harder to implement, but I think we need to work much harder on what I call the front end. Right now, the way our system is set up, and I get frustrated because people, all they want to talk about is violent crime. Well, you go back to the gentleman I'm talking about. I don't know that he's ever done anything over the top violent, but he wreaks havoc on our society. Okay? So, to me, what we need to do is we need to take those folks early on, first time they commit a felony or something to that effect, or second, and we need to start working with them very closely. We need to monitor them very, very closely. In many cases, in fact, in most cases, they're just like children.
Are they seeking attention?
No, they're not being watched. Their behavior is bad, and it's no different. Why can't the teacher just leave the classroom all the time? Because there's those select few that's going to wreak havoc. But as long as they're being watched, most of them will behave. So we need to watch them much closer. We need to help them with job skills if that's what they need. Okay, and I'm talking about early on, Dale, before they ever go down the path. And then when they do finally, if they end up in prison, I say that first time they go down, and I suggested in a newsletter I wrote out that we need different tiers of prisons. That first prison, let's concentrate heavy on job skills and whether it be
a good rehab system.
Good rehab system. But if you come back, then you obviously didn't get it the first time, so let's put some hard labor into it.
Exactly.
Whether you're busting rocks or whatever, I'm saying you need to. And if you come down that third time, you're really not getting it, and it needs to be awful. And by the fourth or more times you go down, you don't need to be let out for a long time because you obviously can't live among society.
Grind the teeth off the key.
And that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Repeat offenders. And so my answer to the senator was twofold. We need to do a better job on the front end. We need to spend money and resources on the front end.
I agree.
But at the same time, they need to find us about another 1,000 or 1,200 beds out there that we can lock up these repeat offenders who continue to wreak havoc on our communities. Again, look at our jail. It's a revolving door.
Unbelievable. Going to take a quick break. Visiting with Sheriff John Montgomery. When we come back, we'll have the answer to the trivia question: who owned the OK Corral? Be right back. 7:50 on this October 8th. And the answer to the question that's been puzzling mankind for decades, possibly centuries.
1881.
Yep.
So, Back to the Future. You remember the movie Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The DeLorean. October 21st, I actually think, is the date on the... If I remember right, in the Back to the Future movie, I think actually... Can you look that up real quick? I think the date on the time machine was actually October 21st, 2015, if I remember right.
Let's see. We'll Google Back to the Future.
And that would have been...
First, I have to spell it right.
B-A-C-K.
Thank you, Sheriff. Do I get 100% of my spell? Let's see.
Look, you should be able to...
Dates on... What would that be?
You probably just...
Future dates on... Here it is, right here. Yeah. Okay, it's popped up. October 26th.
October 26th. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
So, several images here. One says June 27, 2012, October 26, 1985, yeah. October 25, yeah.
So, what does it say on 2015?
Well, let's see. October 2nd.
I thought it was the 21st.
Pull it up. Here it is right here. Oh, there it is, 21st right there.
It is the 21st. So it is the 21st. Okay. Yep. All right, October 21st. Anyway, Back to the Future, as you know, the time machine, they've jumped up in the future 26 years or whatever it was. And you know. So, was in sheriff's business, actually state sheriff's business out in Tucson the last 2 or 3 days. And we had a chance to go through Tombstone. And so the OK Corral, the famous OK Corral, which supposedly had the shootout, which actually didn't occur at the OK Corral, but that's what they say it did.
Yeah.
So the question is, who owned the OK Corral?
I didn't know until I just found out. You want the honors?
No, go right ahead.
The owner was John Montgomery.
That's right.
No joke.
So the question is, was the Back to the Future or whatever?
Ooh.
Yeah.
What'd you think when you saw that sign and took that picture?
Just started cracking. I was just laughing. I had no idea. I had no idea until I saw that on the sign.
My first thought was Wyatt Earp, but when the sheriff of Tombstone,
right,
supposedly.
Yeah.
And who else?
Or no, Virgil. Wasn't it Virgil? And then White was running for sheriff, or White was sheriff? I don't remember. I don't know.
It's been a long time.
Doc Holliday and all this. But anyway.
Doc Holliday, yeah. I think Walter Brennan was in that. Walter Brennan, Henry Fonda. Yeah. Of course, I like the song by Frankie Lane, Gunfight at OK Corral. That was a classic. Yes, folks. John Montgomery owned the OK Corral in 1881.
And actually, if you look it up on the internet, it was called Honest John Montgomery. So, yeah.
Honest John Montgomery, owner of the OK Corral.
Yeah.
Famous gunfight. And it never occurred, did it? Is that fictitious?
No, the gunfight happened.
Did it really?
Yeah, the gunfight happened, but just it actually happened on a side street, not the OK Corral. But the movie actually back in the 50s or whenever it was is what made that famous and actually got everybody to believe it happened at the OK Corral. So
you learned it right here, folks. Well, we're down to a minute and 50 seconds. Final thoughts. Wintertime's coming up.
Wintertime's coming up, of course, you know.
Budget time.
Actually, I'm working on budgets. That's what I'll be doing.
Mayor was here yesterday. He's doing the same thing.
I'm be working hot and heavy trying to finish up budget. Been working on it for several days and try to finish up today and tomorrow. We got a quorum court meeting on Tuesday, which is nothing earth-shattering going on. New radio system is the equipment's been installed. It's working great. We've still got one more phase to finish up. 911's trying to get the last of their equipment installed. But nope, things are good. I'll tell you again, we live in God's country, Dale. Every time I travel or go someplace else, it just makes me appreciate what we have here. Yeah. The fact that you're not fearful to go to the store at night. The fact that we live in such a beautiful area and so many things to offer. This is an awesome place to live. And although I would like to see other places, this is my home. I love it.
Yeah, and I want to ask our folks support our sheriff's department, local PDs, and I've still got my blue ribbon on my radio antenna. Put a blue stripe on your vehicle. Show your support for the police. We got a little ribbon on the front door that supports our police, and I mean, come on, you guys are out 24/7.
I've heard just in the last 2 weeks, several, and I can't tell you how many, but half a dozen or more of my deputies who say that they have had their lunch paid for. At a restaurant, or they go up to the drive-up window and they get up there, it's already paid for.
Wow.
One lady said they had their family out and was sitting there and with the family, and they got up to pay, and nope, already taken care of. And I just want y'all to know,
that's outstanding.
Whoever did that, thank you. It means more than just that few dollars that you spent. It means a lot. It's just that symbol and that saying thank you means so much.
That wraps it up. Our thanks to Sheriff John Montgomery for being here today. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.